Yeah, I would say it's in Germany. I'm usually from Germany, so I would say it's not too different. You spend some time with your friends and family on the New Year's Eve. I think you have some good food and dinner. And then usually you go on a nice walk on the next day, so pretty much on the day today. I would say it's pretty much the same for me here now, maybe excluding the walk, but otherwise I also spend some time with my friends here and enjoy some good food, and in Nepal there's a lot of good food. So.
Yeah, Happy New Year, first of all. Yeah, I think it's different now, this year in particular, compared to last year. I would say, well, last year was pretty much strict lockdown. We were kind of caught up in homes. But I think this year, slightly better than what it was last year. So yeah, generally, just having a few drinks, foods, with close friends and families in a relatively small place, I would say. Of course, open. But yeah, I think that's how we celebrate at this time.
I would say that a lot of things are always new. I think we are a company that is constantly evolving, and we can never really stand still, because really if you stand still, then you really lose track, and also you lose the market, I would say. I would say over the last year we have done a lot of improvements, I would say. I mean, we really were tapping into this global developments that e-commerce was booming all around the world, mostly also driven by the pandemic, and we saw the same trends here. And that obviously also meant a lot of new consumers were going online for the first time, and we've seen really the same thing here, and that's why a big focus for us over the last year was really on making sure that there's a lot more assortment live, that we bring a lot of sellers on our platform live and make it accessible to customers so that they can actually shop safely. And now this Nepali New Year campaign is a big campaign. It's actually the biggest campaign that we've been hosting in our histories after 11/11, I would say. So it's pretty exciting times, I would say.
It's just that for this campaign now, after quite a while, after a few months, we now have all the bank partners on board. We have all the brands coming in. So now we also have sponsors from automotive company like Datsun, who's kind of sponsoring the vehicles as well. So lucky winner gets a Datsun Redmi Go. So that's ready go. So that's one value add. So I can't wait to see who that lucky winner is. But yeah, a lot of offerings, a lot of products, a lot of deals. Especially now that new season is coming in, summer is kicking in, you probably want to get a lot of fashion items, you probably want to get a lot of fan, coolers, AC right now that with the heat of the sun. So yeah, I think a lot of new assortment and new products available with good value add for our customers, and hopefully we can get it delivered as soon as possible in time to our customers.
And I think what Temple was mentioning is quite important, is that about the customer experience, right? So we need to deliver good customer experience every single day, but even in a campaign like this now, which is huge, it's really, like I said, the biggest in months for us, then the eyes are even more on us and on our partners, like our sellers, for example, our logistics partners. So we need to perform even better on these days to really make sure that customers indeed get their items really fast and also in the right quality that they expect. So, but overall, I think we have done really good improvements with all the partners on the platform together over the last months, and that's why we're also really confident that customers actually will like this campaign quite so far. And I think the sentiment over the first few days looks quite positive. I think there's a lot of hype, a lot of traction, really making it the biggest campaign since 11/11, and that's why we're quite optimistic. We have set ourselves really big and ambitious targets. That's always what we want to do. We always want to go to the next level, because we are always about growth, right? And in that sense, I would say the first days have been quite successful, has been quite big. There's a lot of sellers doing really good sales, and I think the customers are also really adopting strongly. So looks quite good. I don't know if you want to add something.
No, I mean, new year, new hopes, right? I think that's the whole kind of notion that we want to go with the campaign. So yeah, we're expecting big numbers, especially it's a new also financial year for us. So aggressive targets like Lino mentioned. And we do see that. I mean, we do see consumers coming back, they're shopping after a long time. They're really kind of coming back into the platform. We can see the traffic going up. And today is even a special day, Nepali New Year, which is the actual day of the, let's say, so to say, the day of the campaign. And yeah, high hopes also from the campaign, and of course also from the new year.
And I think what has really changed is that the assortment also has really improved over the last months. Is that with COVID, obviously global supply chains were quite limited, and what we really saw in the last 2 to 3 months, that assortment of our sellers has improved significantly. So we have a lot more deals. We have about 6 lakh products on the platform right now, which is the biggest assortment in terms of e-commerce in Nepal. And a lot of this is also new, fresh assortment, coming in, and that's also why it's so nice to now share this with all our consumers. So it looks pretty promising. Yeah. In industry, obviously has to develop first, right? And we can't expect that from day one, when a company, even if it's a company like Alibaba, who has so much expertise and so much technology, when it comes to a new country like this, it has to first develop the market, and that's the same thing for a country like Pakistan or Bangladesh, where also it doesn't work from day one. Same like India even, that you really have to invest a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort in really making this ecosystem stronger with all the partners, which means in the first place the sellers. This is what Temple and the team are mostly focusing on really training the sellers, making them more professional, that they deliver what they should, and if they don't, that we also act on it. And I think in the last 2 years there have been really amazing improvements in this regard. But also our logistics partners have improved significantly. So when you now look at this, what it counts for us, the end-to-end delivery timeline, sort of the timeline from order to delivery is on average 3 days or even less than 3 days in Nepal, which is the fastest in the region. So there's a lot of good things happening, and really everyone tries to improve significantly, but we're obviously not done. And that's why also these critics that happened, especially I would say in the early days in 2018, 2019, we always take them quite seriously, because also we know that customers have the full right to say that, and we need to act on it. And that's pretty much what we're doing, and we always appreciate feedback, but we also see that now, there's a lot of positive sentiment where people really were appreciating that the support that our teams and our sellers could give throughout the campaign and throughout the COVID situation. So we're on a good track, but obviously whenever done, there's always something that has to be improved.
Yeah, just to add, I think it's two ways of seeing this, exactly like Lino mentioned, right? So first would be, of course, these feedbacks, be it positive, negative, these critics they're valuable, they are inputs to us, and like Lino said, we take them very seriously because it helps us improve our services further. So one is that it keeps us on our toes. Like, we're not a perfect company. I mean, we have to keep evolving and improving over day on day, month on month. So in that sense, that's definitely valuable, and every customer, right, even though they've had a good experience, they've had a bad experience, do share it with us. It definitely helps us improve. So that's always warm and welcome. In addition to that, I think also it's about, like Lino said, building an ecosystem, and more about educating and, kind of making sellers and customers more aware of, what an e-commerce is. Generally, the expectations are very different because, there's not really, I think, e-commerce has not been at this stage ever before in the past in Nepal, and people try to compare their experience in offline, which is very difficult to kind of bring it on an online scenario, which has its both pros and cons of shopping online. But having said that, it's more about educating what is expected from logistics, what is expected from payment services, what is expected from e-commerce, what is expected from sellers. Trying to make sure that we give that realistic experience as much as possible with the limitations that we have. So in that sense, it's about also, yes, getting that feedback and kind of improve on our side, but at the same time, how can we educate our sellers and customers more about online shopping.
Daraz itself is obviously part of the Alibaba group, but then when it comes to Daraz itself, we're active really in 5 markets. So Pakistan, Bangladesh, our largest 2 markets, and Sri Lanka, Nepal, and then we're also operating in Myanmar. I would say that you see a lot of similarities, but every country still works in a slightly different way. Pakistan is not Bangladesh, Bangladesh is not Nepal, and that's why also our focus is always that we have Alibaba technology and expertise, but we have a very local approach to doing business. So we have a team right now in Nepal of about 600 people. In about a year from now, it's going to be more than 1,000 people only in Nepal itself. And this is primarily a Nepali team, right, which has Nepali ideas and really understands the local consumers, and we really try to leverage this. So marketing strategies will sometimes look completely different. What combines us is that the technology that we have, the backbone, and all of these learnings from each country. But the growth in Nepal, I would say, has been probably one of the strongest in the group. I would say that in 2017-18, it was still very nascent, very, very basic, and there's a lot of education and maybe also trust issues at times. But in the last 2 years, we really have seen a 700% year growth over the last 2 years, which really shows that consumers are really adopting and really appreciating, and also it is really moving now away from just the millennials, the generation Y, for example, the people like us born between 1980 and 2000. But also now we're talking about this generation X, for example, which is born between 1960 and the 1980s. So we'll see a lot of older generations now adopting and shifting to online, and especially during the pandemic, this was really, really increasing. And Nepal is booming, I would say, in terms of e-commerce, and we're really trying to take that momentum and offer good customer service. I would say this a 700% growth is obviously our internal numbers where we have clear visibility. What we don't often have, and we often get that question, is on how is the industry in itself growing, right? And there's not a lot of transparency. So it's not also a lot of companies also don't release their numbers. There hadn't been many market studies. So we can't obviously comment on how other companies are growing. But definitely we as a market leader have been growing 700%. But what we also do see now is that a lot more e-commerce companies now venture into the industry, which especially during COVID times, there was a lot of companies coming. But then also everyone figured out that e-commerce is not as easy as it seems. It's actually quite a complex system that really needs a lot of partners and a lot of very sophisticated technology and a lot of commitment, a lot of investments that you need to put in, and it's really a long-term game. It's not a profit game. E-commerce companies like us are not profitable at this stage, and this is not a secret, but we really try to invest in this ecosystem. And when it comes to the encouraging factors, I would really say that it's a very young country, it's a very hungry country that also looks around what happens in India, or a lot of people have lived abroad or have family abroad, and they see also what is possible. You see the mobile penetration is growing significantly. I was recently reading a number, I think about 23 million of Nepali have internet access. And when we see that 1 million of Nepalis are actually using Daraz every month, that also shows that actually Daraz is not a startup anymore. It's actually now really embedded in society, and it's part of daily life of people, and that makes us quite proud, I would say.
No, I mean, you know, it's more about not really much to add, but this definitely for us is really kind of, you know, how we build this ecosystem and kind of really bringing the partners wherever we see we can add value to each other. So the good and bad, I would say, you know, it's really about the good is, you know, we realize each other's strength from, you know, all the partners that we have, and I think we came all together. It was not like just one entity trying to get into industry, but really kind of leveraging from prepayments, from wallets, from logistics, because it just became much more needed, and you know, we could really bring this together. So there was much more synergy across different partners. So that was really something really good with it. But then at the same time, I think I would not call it cons, or I would not call it the bad of it. But then yeah, there were a lot of let's say ventures pouring into this whole more in terms of e-commerce itself, which, like Lino mentioned, you know, it's a very sophisticated business, and then again, probably they were not there for too long. But yeah, that definitely also kind of helped us kind of, you know, really show how we can provide better experience to our customers, right? I think then customers really felt, oh, what does it really feel like shopping on Daraz versus shopping on any other, let's say, S-commerce or e-commerce platforms? And this is where we want to try and provide that utmost experience to our customers. And I think it's all about, again, you know, getting these feedbacks and how we can improve further. So I think it's good in every way, to be honest.
I would say that when Alibaba acquired Daraz, it did this for a reason, right? I mean, it very carefully investigated all the markets, and it also very carefully looked at Nepal, and it would have never invested into Nepal if it would have not really believed in this market, right? Like what I said earlier, that it's a very young market. There's still, I would say, the ecosystem was not very developed back then. There was not a lot of investment coming into the country. So that also brings challenges, right? So obviously, where there's opportunities, but also it makes it harder, right, to do business. But in the end, it was always about, right, really creating a long-term impact here and really building this ecosystem that, on the one hand, you make sure that customers can actually get access to products which they couldn't get before, no matter if you live in one of our 45 cities around the country, or you live in Kathmandu, but you actually get this access, and on the same way you enable sellers to not only sell in their local communities but nationwide, and that mission hasn't really changed. But I would say that obviously with the industry improving, with all the market players improving, with all the payment partners, banks improving, wallet partners, you also then try to look at different projects. But the most important is that you offer good customer experience, and you just give people access to products and sellers access to service, and then this is still what we're doing every day. I would say that the pandemic or COVID-19 has been quite important for us since day one. And what I mean by this is that we obviously saw it appearing quite early with our colleagues in China, for example, at the beginning of last year. where we then also could really take a lot of learnings from our colleagues in Southeast Asia afterwards as well, where then, it was spreading before it came to Nepal. So it was always on our radar really since the beginning, and we have been following it also quite strictly. That, for example, our focus in the beginning was really to make sure that our team is safe, right? I mean, there was a lot of unclarity on what this is all about, how long is it going to stay. I think no one would have believed that it stays so long with us. But so we focus really a lot on education of our teams, a lot of awareness campaigns also amongst our customers. We had very strict shift planning, for example. We did a lot of contact tracing. And I think the result out of this was that at the end of, or like throughout the year, we had very, very few cases. Obviously, there are some cases here and there. I think that's normal. But overall, I think we have been going through it because of the team that made it work quite successfully. And we still continue this up to now. We're still not up to 100% occupancy in all our locations. We still follow deep cleaning and shift planning. We don't send our team on public transportation because we still, it's there, right? Even though the cases were low. So we were always, I would say we're always ready for the next wave. Obviously, we hope it's not going to happen, but I think we need to be prepared if we also look at around what is happening around us, and we do see cases increasing. So in that sense, we know exactly what to do on the ground. We know exactly what to do with our teams. We recently got our riders, our frontline staff vaccinated, or at least we started together with the Department of Health Services. So these are the most important basics, because only if the team then feels safe, then your customers can also feel safe. So that's part number one. But then on the other hand, we're also trying to have a very open dialogue with the authorities. I think there was a lot of confusion last year, and to be honest, in many countries, even my home country, Germany, there's a lot of confusion still now. And there's not this playbook of how you manage such a crisis, even in the government, and that's fine. I think what we just need to make sure is that everyone is taking these learnings from last year, and if we move into new restrictions, let's say odd and even rules or into partial lockdowns, that it's obviously then managed in a way that is improved compared to last time. And I think e-commerce can really fill a gap here, because we see this all around the world, is that it's not about the sales about Daraz, but it's about the sales of our sellers and sustaining their businesses. And what we've been also doing is often we have been waiving commissions, for example, from these sellers, especially small and medium-sized businesses, and we still continue to do this for small and medium-sized businesses who are signing up on the platform. So we will continue always to do our part and try to have this dialogue, and we're having these dialogues to see that if situations happen, that we at least prepare for it and we can react on it, and that e-commerce can fill this gap and allow customers to still get their items that they need and without going to a market. And on the other hand, and this is what Temple is mostly focusing on, that sellers can still sustain their business even in a pandemic like now, so that the economy is not obviously fully stabilized, but to some extent there's a bit of stability. Yeah. Because we also know that the last months maybe have not been too excited for many people, being more stuck in the house. And now with the biggest assortment that we ever had, like I mentioned, 6 lakh products, the biggest bank partner network with about 10 banks joining us. We have Visa there, we have eSewa there, we have all these brand partners, like Temple talked about, a car as a giveaway. So in a lot of sense, 11/11 is obviously always the biggest day in itself, but Nepali New Year now has really it's already clear that it will again break a lot of records that we have not seen, or like numbers that we haven't seen before.